My name is Sofia Davis. I'm 33 years old, a night shift nurse in a small-town hospital in Linwood, North Carolina. Life here moves at a quiet pace. It's the kind of town where everyone knows your name, but not necessarily your story. I live alone above a bakery, with a rescue cat named Hemingway and a habit of drinking too much coffee after midnight. Most of my time is spent at the hospital, where emergencies arrive with sirens or sometimes on foot. That night was supposed to be just another shift. The rain hadn't stopped since afternoon. The air was thick and damp. I had just poured myself a bitter cup of hospital coffee when the emergency room doors burst open. A man was shouting in Spanish, drenched from the rain, carrying an older man in his arms. "Ayúdame, por favor. Él no puede respirar." He looked like he had come straight from a garage. Oil stains on his shirt, grease under his fingernails, fear in his voice. We rushed to help. His father was barely conscious, his chest rising shallowly. I stayed by the younger man's side, calming him as best I could. "What's your father's name?" I asked. "Ernesto," he said. "He has problems with his heart. Please." We stabilized his father, and I promised we'd take good care of him. The man just nodded. I offered him a towel. He whispered a soft, "Gracias." His name was Miguel. He didn't ask for mine. As the night wore on, Miguel didn't move from the waiting room. He didn't drink water, didn't eat. He just waited. Eyes fixed on the door, like he was bracing for more than just news from a doctor. It was around 4 a.m. when we finally spoke again. He told me he worked as a mechanic at a scrapyard on the edge of town, that he had crossed the border from Mexico with his father 3 years ago, that they lived quietly, kept to themselves, that he was undocumented. "What if someone calls immigration?" he asked me, voice barely above a whisper. "We save lives here," I said. "That's all that matters." He looked at me for a long time, like he didn't quite believe me, but wanted to. When the morning came, his father was stable. Before he left, Miguel took my hand. "I don't know how to thank you," he said. "Just take care of him," I replied. Then he walked out, disappearing into the rain. But I knew he'd come back, because some encounters aren't accidents, they're beginnings. I told myself it was just another case, that Miguel was like any other family member of a patient, but I couldn't stop thinking about him. A few nights later, I found a paper bag resting on the seat of my motorcycle. Inside were 2 warm tamales, a small bottle of homemade rice milk, and a note written in careful, slightly crooked handwriting. "Gracias por cuidar a mi padre." "Miguel!" I smiled. Then I panicked. I wasn't ready for this, for the risks, for what it would mean to let someone like Miguel into my life. Someone undocumented. Someone who could disappear with a knock on the door. I avoided his street for days, took longer routes home. I told myself I was being smart. But really, I was afraid. Then came Sunday lunch with my mother. She showed up unannounced with cornbread and questions. "You spend your life in that hospital," she said. "But when do you live for yourself?" "Mom, please." "There's someone, isn't there?" I didn't answer. I didn't need to. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "Don't let fear decide for you." That afternoon, I drove to the scrapyard. Miguel was under a car, music playing, softly from a radio. When he saw me, he smiled. Not surprised, just relieved. "I thought maybe you forgot me," he said. "I tried," I replied. "Didn't work." We talked for over an hour, about cars, about his hometown in Jalisco, about the way America promised everything, but made you pay for it with silence. That day marked a shift. I began visiting him discreetly. Sometimes after shifts, sometimes on my days off. We were careful. We had to be. But Linwood is a small town. Secrets echo loudly here. One of the ER nurses cornered me in the break room. "You know, people are talking," she said. You really want to be associated with his kind? I walked away before I said something I'd regret. Later, I told Miguel. He wasn't surprised. It's always been like this, he said. Even when we stay invisible, they still look at us like we don't belong. That night, I received a text from him. Mi padre wants to invite you for dinner. He's making pozole. Only if you want to. I went. Their home was tiny but warm. There was laughter, soft music, the smell of lime and cilantro. Miguel's father hugged me with teary eyes. Over dinner, we talked about nothing and everything, and under the table, Miguel took my hand in his. It wasn't a declaration. It was a promise that we were no longer pretending. We had crossed into something real. Falling for Miguel didn't happen all at once. It happened in the stolen hours after my night shifts, in the quiet dinners we had in his small kitchen, and in the way he looked at me like I was something good in a world that hadn't been kind to him. But love in secret isn't love in peace. At first it felt like we were invisible to the world. Then the world began to notice. Rumors started to swirl at the hospital. Small comments, glances that lingered too long. One nurse whispered, loud enough for me to hear, "She's seeing that guy from the junkyard, the illegal." I tried to pretend it didn't affect me, but it did. Miguel, too, started pulling away, not because he didn't love me, but because he feared for me. "If someone reports me," he said one night, his voice low, "you could lose your job. They could come for me. I've seen it happen." "And if I walk away, what happens to us?" I asked. He didn't answer. He didn't have to. That week, I had dinner with my best friend, Hannah, someone I trusted with every part of me. Over cheap wine and too much pasta, I finally told her. "He's undocumented," I said. She looked at me long and hard. I braced myself for judgment. Instead, she smiled. "Does he make you happy?" "Yes." "Then don't. Let anyone scare you out of it." Hannah became my ally, a secret keeper, a safe space. She even met Miguel once, under the pretense of needing car help. He fixed her brakes and refused to take money. "I like him," she told me later. "And I like you better when you talk about him." But enemies weren't far behind. One morning, Miguel called me in a panic. ICE agents had shown up at the shop. Someone had tipped them off. They didn't find anything, not that day, but it was a warning, the kind that comes with flashing lights and pounding hearts. He stopped going to work for a while, hid at a friend's place, and with each day apart, something inside me started to ache. So I did the unthinkable. I brought him to my place. He slept on my couch the first night. The second night, he held me. The third night, he kissed me like he hadn't slept in years. Love isn't always pretty. Sometimes it's desperate and raw, built on borrowed time. But that month, in my tiny apartment above the bakery, we were something beautiful. We had movie nights with Spanish subtitles. I taught him how to make mac and cheese. He taught me how to dance to rancheras. We lived like the world couldn't find us. But the world did. One morning, I left for work and found a note taped to my door. "He doesn't belong here. And neither do you if you protect him." There was no signature, just a threat. I brought the note to the police. They logged it, promised to look into it. But in Linwood, small towns protect their own, and Miguel wasn't one of them. That night, I found him packing a bag. "What are you doing?" I asked, panic rising in my throat. "I won't put you in danger. Leaving won't protect me, but staying might save us." He looked at me like he wanted to believe it, like he needed a reason to stay. I kissed him like a promise, but deep down, we both knew. The real test was still coming. The weeks that followed felt stolen from someone else's life. Ours. We were cautious but happy, in the quiet kind of way that made me believe maybe we could beat the odds. Miguel came over more often. He cooked. I laughed more. We planned nothing, but hoped for everything. Then the phone call came. Miguel's father collapsed again. The same heart. This time, worse. We rushed to the hospital. I tried to remain calm, clinical, professional, but my hands shook when I checked his vitals. I wasn't just the nurse anymore. Hours passed. Surgery was recommended, complicated, expensive. The kind of care his father wasn't eligible for. I pleaded with the surgeon. He shrugged. Unless he has insurance or status, it's charity care. If we have funds. I felt helpless, furious. Miguel sat outside, head in his hands. I joined him. "I'll find a way," I said. "We'll find a way." But I could see it in his eyes, that crack in his strength. "I shouldn't have brought him here," he said. "He worked every day, never asked for anything. We came to live, not to suffer like this." I touched his cheek. He didn't flinch, but didn't smile either. Later that night, I broke a rule. I used my hospital badge to access records. I called in a favor. I begged for a slot in the charity program, something we only approved in extreme cases. It wasn't ethical. But it was right. The surgery was scheduled for the next morning. For a moment, I let myself believe we'd won. Then someone reported me. A formal complaint, breach of protocol, violation of access permissions. The words felt like cold metal. I was suspended pending review. Miguel came to my apartment holding a letter he hadn't opened. "It's from ICE," he said. "Someone's reported me too." The world we'd built began to collapse, one letter at a time. I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry. But instead, I made tea. "We still have tonight," I whispered. We held each other like the world could end before morning. And in many ways it did. The next day, I was called into a hearing. They questioned my choices, my relationship, my judgment. They asked if I had compromised hospital integrity. I answered honestly. I compromised nothing. I said I saved a life. Meanwhile, Miguel made his own choice. He went to the immigration office, voluntarily. He stood in a cold waiting room and told them the truth. He had lived in Linwood for 3 years, worked every day, paid cash for everything, and never asked for help until now. They took him in. I wasn't there when they did, but I felt it. Like a thread inside me had been cut. The next day, Ernesto's surgery saved his life, but mine had fallen apart. The man I loved was gone. The hospital didn't fire me, not yet. I was placed on extended leave. To reflect, they said, as if love required apology. At night, I stared at my phone, willing it to ring. A message, a miracle. Nothing came. And yet, I still believed, because love doesn't end in silence. It waits, and it endures. 3 months passed. Spring came to Linwood. Flowers bloomed along the sidewalks. Life moved on without asking permission. But I hadn't moved. I went back to work under strict conditions. I kept my head down, saved my words for patience and silent prayers. I missed him. Everywhere I went, I looked for signs of him. The corner of the scrapyard, the aisles of the grocery store, the old gas station where he sometimes filled up. Nothing. Miguel had vanished, like smoke in the wind. One evening, after a long shift, I found an envelope tucked under my apartment door. No return address, no name. Inside was a photograph. Miguel, standing in front of a small repair shop. Taller El Camino. Somewhere. That looked like Arizona, maybe New Mexico. He was smiling, truly smiling. On the back, a note. I'm building something here. If you ever want to find me, I'll be waiting. My heart raced. I didn't think. I packed a bag, took Hemingway to my sister's place, left a note for my boss saying I needed a few days, maybe more. I drove west. It took 2 days, endless highways, desert heat, doubts creeping in. What if he changed his mind? What if I was too late? What if this was a goodbye, not an invitation? The repair shop was small, set against red cliffs and an open sky that stretched forever. A place built for second chances. He was fixing a truck when I pulled up, wiping his hands on a rag. When he saw me, he froze. For a second, neither of us moved. Then he dropped the rag and ran. I barely had time to get out of the car before he wrapped me in his arms. No words, no apologies, just home. He kissed me like he was breathing again for the first time. Later, sitting on the porch as the sun dipped low, he told me everything. About the night they took him. About the lawyer who took his case pro bono. About the small work visa he had managed to secure for a year, thanks to Ernesto's sponsorship and a bit of luck. "It's not forever," he said, "but it's a start." I took his hand. "Forever starts with today." Miguel smiled, that crooked, beautiful smile. We built a life there, slow, honest, ours. I found work at a local clinic. He grew his repair business. We made pozole on Sundays. We danced under the stars, no longer hiding. Love didn't save us. We saved love. Every day. With every choice to stay, to fight, to believe. And when we finally said I do, it was under a sky so big and forgiving, it felt like anything was possible. Because it was.
The end.